How's everybody doing this evening? Good. Good to see you, Dee Dee. Hey, Beverly. Lots of lovely faces. Hey, Sherry. Hey, Mary. Hey, Sharon. Oh, I see so many lovely people on this call. Hey, Dottie. I'm so glad you all could make it this evening. And we are really excited to welcome back Joey Clark as our featured presenter this evening. Joey is, of course, a known entity to us here at Encore Creativity, having run Encore University courses and now for a little bit. And of course, now joining us as a rocks conductor with our online program. So we're grateful that Joey has taken those online rockers this semester. And I'm excited for tonight's Masterclass presentation. This is, I think, number 9, our ninth Masterclass series presentation. And tonight's Masterclass is entitled Elements of Art. Explore how the elements of art manifest within the worlds of music, theater, dance, and visual art. And this is a preview, really, of the larger class that Joey's going to teach as part of our upcoming Spring 24 Encore University semester. So, just by show of hands, how many of you are registered already for Encore University? Wonderful. So Joey's teaching one of 5 classes that are happening Monday through Friday, all classes at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and they're offered on Zoom. You can attend live, of course, but they're offered on demand as well. We record every class just like our master classes. And so if you can't be there for a live class at 4 p.m. Eastern, don't worry about it. You can catch it on demand. But he's teaching one of 5 classes, and we have a great lineup of all new material this upcoming semester. And those classes start February 12th. So you can check out encorecreativity.org for more information about that semester. And I hope that you register. So Joey, I'm so glad you're joining us this evening. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Brian. Thank you. I just got back I escaped the winter of Minnesota and went to the Dominican Republic for 2 weeks.
Ooh,
So I am
hey,
back
so
and I timed it perfectly that the temperatures went up as soon as I got back. Dee Dee, thank you
that's
for holding the
perfect. That's
fort down in Minnesota. Are there any other Midwesterners on the call here? Oh, okay, Teresa. Very nice. Who are the
all
East
right.
Coasters? Raise your hand if you're an East Coaster. I figured most of you. Okay. Any West Coasters? No. Anyone from the South? No. All right.
Well,
Me and Dee Dee
well,
up
we
in
we will
Minnesota
likely
here.
catch some of those folks, Joey, on demand. I think there were about 30 or so folks that registered for this evening to hear you present. So I know the rest of the folks that aren't here live will get to watch the video. Um, and just before I turn it completely over to Joey, just a couple quick reminders for everybody. Stay on mute unless Joey requests you to unmute, and I'll be here to monitor that. And if you would like to ask a question, the chat's a great place to put that question, unless Joey says, hey, just raise your hand or call out at any point. That's up to him. But that chat is a great spot. And in the last 15, 20 minutes of today's presentation, we'll take a Q&A and answer any questions that Joey doesn't have a chance to answer as he presents. All right. Thank you, Joey. Thanks again for being here.
All right. Welcome, everybody. So, yeah, this is a preview of the course that I'll be teaching throughout the semester on the elements of art. And I started teaching this class a year ago because I was trying to figure out ways to include other forms of art in my music classes that I teach. Um, I love incorporating all different forms of arts. We call that multimodal teaching when you're teaching different modes of arts within one curriculum. And I was really trying to get my classes to move more, which is always, I think, a challenge for us, musicians that we're used to kind of standing still or sitting still a lot. And so I was trying to think of how can I relate music to movement and dance and even theater. So I decided to come up with this class, Elements of Art, which is really just taking the vocabulary of what we apply to one art form and applying it to all different art forms. So, how many of you would say you love the art form of music? You better all put your hands up. Okay. How many of you would say you love the art form of dance? Okay. How many of you would say you love the art form of the literary arts or theater? Oh, quite a bit of you. Almost everyone. Great. And how many of you would say that you love visual art? Yeah. Most art lovers kind of like, they love more than just one form of art. And part of the reason why it's hard to love all the forms of arts is that like things don't feel as accessible to us, right? But I think that this class kind of helps put all of the art forms together and kind of find the similarities that I think will help you if you feel like you've been one of those people that like, I just can't get into modern dance, you know? I just try and I go and I don't know what they're doing, you know? Or I go to the museum and I look at this painting and I just don't know what to think or what to say, right? I think we've all had those moments about different forms of art. So this will give you a vocabulary that you can talk about art with other people and it'll make you look really smart. That's the goal. So we're going to start with just a little synopsis of what the semester would look like in this course. And then I'll give you some sneak preview. So we're looking at the worlds of music, visual art, dance, and theater specifically. But if you have questions about, you know, other variations of those art forms, feel free to chime in. And in the 10 weeks, these are the elements that I'm hoping to explore. So there'll be a different theme basically every week. I start with form because that's kind of like the most basic way to talk about art and how things are created. But some of them get a little bit more ambiguous, like the idea of space or the idea of energy happening in art. So for today, we're going to concentrate on two of those. So I'm going to start with form, okay? And I think form is really easy to look at in the world of visual art first because we can like touch it, you know? You can see the form, you can touch it. It occupies space. Of course, you have three-dimensional artwork that has shape and structure and dimensions to it, right? Like length and width and depth. And then you have two-dimensional artwork that uses the ideas of shadow and light, negative space, to create different forms on a canvas, right? Or in a carving. Shapes in art can be geometric or organic. So geometric pertains to like what you see in front of you there, like real specific shapes. Two-dimensional, three-dimensional. Organic forms are things that are irregular. You know, I love to think about, when I'm thinking about this, I think about the, you know how certain fruits and vegetables make their way to Whole Foods, and certain fruits and vegetables make their way to Aldi, or, you know, one of the kind of lower frills grocery stores, right? I forget how they classify them. Does anyone recall? I think they're like the A vegetables versus the B vegetables versus the C, or the, you know, first class, second class, third class. So think about your vegetables and your fruit. You've got those perfect ones, and then you've got those oddly shaped ones in the organic forms. And then we have different kinds of sculpture. Sculpture in the round, you can see that picture of the couple there. That is a, you know, like an actual sculpture you can hold, right? Three-dimensional, carved out of stone or clay or wood, or made or molded, is the other way to think about that, out of clay. And then you've got relief sculptures, which are carved from flat material, creating a scene that looks like a three-dimensional scene. And you can have a low relief, which is the upper right picture there. Or you can have a high relief, which is the picture of the Queen Mother and the royal family in relief down there. You can just see the difference is the amount of space that the relief takes up if it's more two-dimensional or three-dimensional. I find this really interesting. Combined frontal and profile form, the most basic way of rendering the human figure on a two-dimensional surface is combining the idea of profile and frontal perspectives. So if you look here, you can see that the mummy there is facing to the side in a profile. The woman, her head is profiled, but her torso is frontal. So because of that, and her hips are kind of rotated a bit too, you can kind of get a sense, even just from this, that there is like a three-dimensional figure there, that that's a real person because of the way each of her body parts is facing. It's funny to me also because that is how we stand in the theater world on stage, where we'll look at someone to the side, but our body will be facing the audience. So we've kind of replicated that. Then you've got illusion. You can see the depth, of course, in the Last Supper here. And that's because the walls kind of go back at angles. And there's some shadowing happening on their clothing as well. And also, people are facing sideways or front with their bodies. We've got abstract forms like Picasso. Again, kind of organic shapes. The three-dimensional form, very traditional sculpture. And then here's the relief again. This is a very famous relief, The Gates of Paradise. I see head nods. Some of you have been there. Yes. So that is the form of visual art. And now we're going to talk about the form of musical art. But before we go on, any comments or questions about form within visual art and how it's represented? Okay. So now musical form is like a very different world, but both ways, both types of art have their own form to them. And musical form is described either usually in letters or by name, and you know many of those names. The names are things like the chorus and the bridge, the introduction. But we're going to look at letters, and you might have used letters before in talking about music, or you might have heard people refer to letters. So generally in music, in Western music, in American music, the perfect song, someone decided, Irving Berlin really, is like a 32-bar song. So people like Irving Berlin and Richard Rodgers were writing, American popular music in the early 1900s, and 32 bars was like the ultimate expression. You should be able to fit everything perfectly into 32 bars of music, and those 32 bars should divide into 4, and there should be 8 bars of music in all 4 sections. 8 times 4, 32. You would start with an A section. An A section is 8 bars, usually, that kind of shows some type of theme or melody or motif within those 8 bars. And then you might repeat those 8 bars and have another A section, or you might have something called an A prime, where it's very similar to the first 8 bars, but just a little bit different. And then later on in the song, maybe you'll have an A double prime, where it also is very similar, but then there's a couple key changes. Then you might have a section of your song that's completely different than the A section. We call that the B section. And the typical American standard song is written in an AABA form. And I'll show you many examples of what that means. But there's usually a pattern that repeats itself, then something new, and then we go back to the first pattern. Sometimes we add a C section, or a coda, you might call that, at the end. Sometimes we have these songs that are kind of like verses and choruses, and verses and choruses. So it might be A, B, or A, B, A prime, B, A double prime, B. Any questions about that before I go on? I'll give you examples as we go. Okay, so labeling with words. You know the word verse. We've been using that our whole lives since we were little kids. Have the same melody but different words usually. Refrains or choruses have the same melody and the same words. A bridge section is like a B section. It's new. It's something that comes in later on in the song. You might have an instrumental break in your song. And then all those combinations can create predetermined forms. You might have a song that's a theme and variations. So that would look like this: A prime, A double prime, A triple prime. You might have a rondo. A rondo is a theme, something new, back to the theme, something new, back to the theme, and so on and so forth. Symphonies have their own forms, right? You might have symphonies that have fast sections and slow sections with silence between the movements. And we all know, if you've been to a classical concert, that's to wait for the silence between the movements because it's not over yet. I'm not going to go through all these, but here are some examples of other forms that you experience in music. Yeah, I'll give you a second to look. And here are more forms. And I added to the bottom of this the hip hop form because it's actually a very specific, relatively new form of music writing, where you have a repeated chorus with verses, and then you take a break from those things, and you have a repeated beat during which somebody raps, and then you usually return back to the chorus. Any questions or comments about some of those forms? I don't expect you to memorize them. Some of them are probably very familiar and some of them are much newer. And of course, in different cultures, there are many different forms. The cyclical form is one that you would find much more like in India, in kind of European, in Asian and Middle Eastern music. All right, so here's some examples, and it's your turn. You can sing along with me, okay? So we have, this song is a Gershwin song, of course. And we're going to kind of take it apart piece by piece and analyze the form. So we have wonderful, it's marvelous, you should care for me. That's the A section. Now this one is similar. It's awful nice, it's paradise, it's what I love to see. So that is the second A section. It's almost identical. You can see the rhythms are identical. The only thing that's not identical is like the last pitch, right? To see instead of for me. So I wouldn't even bother calling that an A prime. It's so similar. I would just call it another A section. So we've had A and A. Now we're going to go to the B section because this is completely different. You've made my life so glamorous. You can't blame me for feeling amorous. And now back to an A. Oh, it's wonderful. It's marvelous. Oh, that's a little different. That you should care for me. So that is an A prime, right? Because it's similar. The rhythms are very, very similar, but the notes shift a little bit. But you could tell it's reminiscent of the A section. So that song is an AABA. Now this song is more of a jazz standard, slightly different era. Three coins in the fountain, each one seeking happiness. Feel free to join me. Thrown by three hopeful lovers, which one will the fountain bless? That's an A section. Second A. Three hearts in the fountain, each heart longing for its home. There they lie in the fountain, somewhere in the heart of Rome. B section. Which one will the fountain bless? Which one will the fountain bless? Back to the A. Three coins in the fountain, through the ripples how they shine. Just one wish will be granted, one heart will share a valentine. To the coda, C section. Make it mine, make it mine, make it mine. So that form is so obvious because they didn't even bother writing it out. They just put repeats. So you can really, really see that it's obviously a repeated theme. A. Second ending takes you to a B, and then you go back and do another A, and then you've got C, the coda. Okay, so then things got a little bit weird in the 60s and 70s thanks to drugs. But probably there were some people that really wanted to change the form. So Jim Croce's one of those people. And yeah, thank you. Brian just wrote, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put it in the chat, and I am looking at it. So first of all, you can already see in the form that this is different because it's in a different time signature. So time is divided differently within this form. There are 3 beats happening in the measures. You're all musicians, so you can see that pretty obviously. But this one is a little funky because, like, count the number of measures. If you skip that pickup note, you've got here, I'll use my mouse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? I have to move your faces. Okay, yeah. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that one section has 16 measures. And there's nothing repeated within those 16 measures, right? Everything kind of looks different. And then it goes back and repeats another 16 measures on the second line of lyrics. And then you're jumping to this new section where the key even changes. And let's see how many measures he's got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So another 16 bars in a new key, and it's a completely different thing, right? And then he goes back to the third verse, I had a box for wishes, right? And then after that, he continues on, actually, and goes and repeats where it says the second ending. That's actually also the third ending when he recorded it. So you go the second and third ending because you see, and then it goes to the coda at the end. And the coda changes keys again. It goes into D minor. And that's just an instrumental coda. So this form is very, very different. You might want to just refer, thank you, Dee Dee. You might want to just refer to this form as verse chorus, because the words in the, in the, this D, where it says in the key of D major here, but there never seems to be enough time, those words don't change. So you might want to just say, okay, this is like having 3 verses and a chorus in between them, right? Instead of trying to think of it as A, B, C. But either way works, okay? So let's sing through it and just take note as we go. If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. If I could make days last forever, if words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again I would spend them with you. Key change, but there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know that you're the one I want to go through time with. If I had a box just for wishes and dreams that had never come true, the box would be empty except for the memory of how they were answered by you. Key change, but there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know that you're the one I want to go through time with. Now to the coda. So isn't that a fascinating form? I mean, really, he got a lot of, he won a lot of awards for this song, and you could see why. He really changed the form quite a bit. Very creative. I especially love the coda and how it goes back into a minor key at the end and does something completely unexpected and different. Any comments, questions? Kathy, I see you exclaiming with your hands. And feel free to unmute if you want to share any thoughts. If not, we'll just go on. All right, now, this is a country song. Gene Pitney. Country, yeah, country very often follows the verse chorus. Verse chorus. So this is what that is. You passed me by one sunny day, flashed those big brown eyes my way, and oh, I wanted you forevermore. Now I'm not one that gets around, I swear my feet stuck to the ground, and though I never did meet you before, I said hello, Mary Lou. Goodbye heart, sweet Mary Lou, I'm so in love with you. I knew, Mary Lou, So hello, Mary Lou, goodbye, heart. I saw your lips, I heard your voice. Believe me, I had no choice. With wild horses couldn't make me run away. Whoa, it's hard to see. I thought about the moonlit night, my arms about you good and tight. That all I had to see for me to say. I said hello, Mary Lou. Goodbye, heart, sweet Mary Lou, I'm so in love with you. I knew, Mary Lou, we'd never part. So hello, Mary Lou, goodbye, heart. I mean, it is fun to sing those songs with the repeated chorus. You know, it really gets people going. I saw your comment there, Dee, about Jim Croce. Yeah, he died young. I forgot that. I can't remember the cause of death. But yeah, that's right. Okay, we're venturing into the world of the Beatles, everybody. Now, as you might know, Lennon and McCartney, the rest of them, they had no musical training whatsoever. And McCartney says in interviews now, he made a point of making every song sound so different than the other songs. And part of that was instrumentation, and part of that was lyrics, and of course, you know, melody and whatever. But a lot of it was the form. He really experimented quite a bit with form, to the point where music scholars are just like shocked, because he he recreates the form, and it sounds so what's the word? You have no idea he's recreating the form as he recreates the form, because he does it so eloquently. So here's a great example. So yesterday, can you count how many measures are in the first A section? How many? You can hold up your fingers. It's 7. Right. 7 measures. So, like, up until now, America has only been writing in 8 measure phrases. And all of a sudden, we've got 8 or 16, but now we've got 7. So, of course, he does it for an effect. And notice that the word that comes on the second A section, the first word of the second A section is the word suddenly. So that comes suddenly, that word, because it doesn't wait a measure for 8 bars to be completed. It comes suddenly. So let's just sing it and see how it feels with the 7 bars. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she had to go, I don't know. And we'll stop there. So I know that you were so used to hearing this song that you don't even really notice that he skipped a measure. But I'm going to play it for you, and I'm going to add an 8th measure so you can hear what songwriting usually sounds like up until now. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. There's a shadow hanging over me. Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she So do you hear how that eighth measure sounds normal to us? That extra little beat, or four beats in this case. Um, but yeah, he recreated the form with seven. I'm checking the chat. Jim Croce died at age 30. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Now this one is a real recreation of the form. So this is, I know it's hard to see, sorry. This is all you need is love. Okay? So now, look at this. In the in the beginning, he has something that is completely on its own. And if you notice, the time signature goes 4-4-3-4, 4-4-3-4, 4-4-4-4, 4-4-3-4. And that's the introduction, we would call that. So, love, 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 love. There's nothing you can do. So, you really gotta count, you know, if you're gonna do this Beatles song, right? Especially if you're the drummer. It's really tricky. So that's the intro. And then if you look at the verse, you've got 4-4-3-4, 4-4-3-4, 4-4-4-4, 4-4-3-4. So he actually maintains the changes in the time signature for the verse. And it goes, it's hard to see, I know, sorry. It's, there's nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can be, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. There's nothing you can say that can't be said. I can't see it. Nothing you can be that can't be said. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. 1, 2, 3. And then we're in the chorus. And the chorus at the bottom there is thank God in 4-4. It's just like plain, simple 4-4. And that's why everyone loves singing this song, because the rest of it is so hard. and then they're like, oh, there's only 5 words that get repeated, and it's all in the same time signature. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. Right? It's so easy, and you feel so good after you've sang it. And then, of course, in this form, you do have to go back, and there's a third verse, and then back to the chorus. Don't ask me what drugs he was doing when he created that song, but I'm sure it was something great. Then in America, we have other forms as well. We've got, the 12-bar blues. The 12-bar blues is like the standard blues formation, and these Roman numerals up above show us the type of chord that happens in each of the measures. So it's a 1 chord for 4 measures, followed by 2 measures of a 4 chord, then a 1, and then a 5 chord, then a 4 chord, then a 1, and if you're going to go back, you add a 5. So I'll play what that looks like. This is the form that, I would say 80% of the blueses that you've heard in your life follow this form. So you have 1 chord, 1 chord, 1 chord, 4 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 1 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5, 1 chord. That is the 12-bar blues. Very, very famous form in America. All right, how are we doing on time? It's 7:10. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead and go to a different element of art. So we're skipping. Let's talk about time. All right, and I'm gonna do time in theater because, or you know what? I'll do a little bit of theater and then I'll do a little bit of visual art. So in dramatic art, when you go see a show, it's normally set at a particular time of day or a particular season or a particular year or moment in history. That would be called a period drama. Sometimes the time element within the play is natural, meaning that it is exactly the time as we are experiencing it as an audience. So it goes by like, 60 seconds are in a minute and 60 minutes are in an hour. So the play itself takes place in, 90 minutes. And 90 minutes of drama occurs, right? That's naturalism. But often in plays, they play with time, right? So they jump ahead or they jump back. Sometimes they play with the idea that time doesn't even exist. If you've seen any absurdist dramas like by Samuel Beckett or Edward Albee, they're kind of created in a void space where time doesn't happen. Epic theater is interrupted time, so a lot of Kurt Weill's stuff, Bertolt Brecht stuff, where there'll be a plot that is moving and then time stops for them to sing a song at the audience. And then my favorite is musical theater time. Because yeah, I see some other people like that. Musical theater time is incredibly creative. And I should say, the same is true of opera, even more so with opera. So in musical theater time, you can experience like a whole day in the life of somebody in one song, right? Like the song takes you from morning to noon to night. And so in what is like 3 minutes or 5 minutes for the audience, we have an entire day happening, right? Or you can have a song that is like, like in 42nd Street, they have a song that's like all about like the whole journey to get to Buffalo or whatever, right? And in one song, they've done that whole journey, so several hours. Or in one song, you've done a whole rehearsal process, right? So musical theater and opera can make things go really fast. At the same time, musical theater and opera can make things go incredibly slow. You can take one moment of time, like the moment I first laid eyes on Janet Werner, right down there in the screen. Hi, Janet. the moment Janet and I first met, right? And we can take that moment, which is just like a second of time, and create an entire ballet sequence with music, right? That is that one moment. And it can last 20 minutes, right? On the stage. So I love musical theater time because it plays so much. Dramatic timing is dependent on many different elements. Like you can time how fast or slow people gesture to each other or respond to each other. The space between the words, the space between the actions, holds a lot of weight. The rhythm of the words has timing to it. The whole scene has timing to it. The scene can start really slow. Somebody just came home from work and they're exhausted. And then by the end of the scene, there is complete chaos happening in the scene. Children screaming, crying, a woman slams the door and leaves. So the scene changes its time throughout. Then we have these things called beats, which is like one moment that is dealing with a certain topic, and then the topic changes. So you have a different beat. And each of those have their own timing because the topic might be more serious or not. I won't go into all these other things today. But comedic timing is something you've all gotten used to seeing. So let's actually go to comedic timing. I'm going to skip her. And my favorite example of comedic timing is these guys. And the timing that we're going to listen to is who is on first. Now, I want you to just pay attention to this as if you're like looking at the words as if they were lyrics on a musical score, and just listen for the rhythm of their timing. You could basically write out their rhythm and sell it as sheet music for how to do comedic timing, because it is so brilliant the way that they time their responses to each other. So I'm going to start it somewhere in the middle if I can here. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The fellow playing first base for St. Louis.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
Sorry, hold on. Let me get the video to play for you.
Well, what are you asking me for?
I'm going to go back a little bit. Okay. It's thinking about it.
Peculiar names.
Funny names?
Nicknames, pet names.
Not as funny as my name, Sebastian Dinwiddie.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Funnier than that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Now, on the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second. I don't know who's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellows on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second. I don't know who's on third.
You know the fellows' names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The fellow playing first base for St. Louis.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
Well, what are you asking me for?
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first baseman.
Who is on first?
Have you got a first baseman on first?
Certainly.
Then who's playing first?
Absolutely.
When you pay off the first baseman every month, who gets the money?
Every dollar of it. Why not? The man's entitled to it.
Who is?
Yes.
So who gets it?
Why shouldn't he? Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it.
Whose wife?
Yes. After all, the man earns it.
Who does?
Absolutely.
Well, all I'm trying to find out is what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no. What is on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, don't change the players.
I'm not changing nobody.
Take it easy.
What's the guy's name on first base?
What's the guy's name on second base?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know.
He's on third. We're not talking about him.
So you get the idea. I mean, the rhythm is so specific and timed out, right? And you can actually tell there are a couple moments where they fall off the rhythm and it's not quite as funny, you know? But in general, I mean, you could write out da 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 ba da ba da ba da, right? So all of those rests, I love it. I love it. So just to quickly give you a little bit from the dance world, you've got different types of time that they use in dance. Dance that is clocked, meaning it follows the rhythm of the clock, right? Or just sensed, because you can kind of like feel each other's presence. Or time that is affected by other people when you're doing like a sequence. And a good example of that is when you go to a stadium and they do the wave. That's sequential event-based timing. We are all performing a dance in a sequence, and the timing of that wave is kind of organic, and it's not clock-based. So I won't go into all of this now, but those are all examples. And why don't I play you a little bit of this dance. So this is called Seeds of Wind. And you could just see the timing. I just need to get out of here for a second. I'm going to stop share. Hello, everybody. And here is another screen. So, any observations about how they utilized timing within that? Or how time was an important element within that piece?
Well, they used that gong,
Oh, yeah, the gong
and
kind of
then there
marked
was
the.
then there was this kind of space of time as they moved, and everybody was moving after the next person in a way, more like a wave.
Right, the sequential timing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Anybody else? Kathy, are you talking?
I talk to myself a lot.
Oh.
I was agreeing. I was agreeing with her. Sorry.
Any other observations? There's also this time ebbs and flows within it, right? There's kind of these like moments of ricocheting quickness and then slowness, stillness, and then sometimes it would ricochet back again, or it would just be a simple, slow inhale, exhale. And you're right, the gong is certainly an element in keeping the time in a way.
So was that choreographed or people just did it extemporaneously?
Oh, I'm
Um,
sure it was choreographed.
my assumption is that it was extemporaneous in the rehearsal process, and then they kind of found something that would stick. That's usually how dance works, that they kind of create over a long period of time, actually, by improvising, and then they find the moments that really work, and then they keep them. So a little bit of it is probably still improvised, but the structure of it is not.
What
And the
company
kind
was that? I'm sorry. What company was that?
that's a company in Minnesota, actually.
Ah.
Hold on, let me pull up the name again. Well, the choreographer is Win Frick, but I don't know if it actually I don't know if they actually have a name. Oh, Xenon. Yeah, Xenon Dance Company. Um, Xenon is a very popular company here in Minnesota.
Hmm.
Anybody else? Well, thoughts on this class? Like I said, we'll be doing a different element every week. And so today I gave you two, but it'll normally be just one. And then we'll look at that one element through all the different forms of art. And of course, those of you who have taken classes with me before, I love it when people chime in and speak from their own personal experiences and have their own things to add. And certainly, I'm up to analyzing works that you think of. Like usually, if I bring in visual art, that'll spur new other people's ideas. So we can certainly analyze other material, and I'm open to improvising during class as well. Any questions
Great.
or comments? Do you feel smarter?
Of course.
Good. Okay, that's the
It
goal.
was good.
Folks, do we have any questions for Joey? Feel free to, honestly, there's so few of us, you could probably just ask them out loud. But if you're feeling a little bit shy and you want to pop them into the chat, that's fine too. We have a little bit of time with Joey to ask any questions about today's lecture or about Joey's illustrious career up to this point. It's completely up to you.
Any
What was your-
surprises in there? Any surprises about the examples that I gave? It looked like some of you had really profound reactions to some of the musical form, at least.
Well, I guess, I've never really analyzed songs in that way. So that was quite fascinating. when we're learning at least when I'm learning music, with Encore, I'm concentrating on learning music, and but not thinking so much about in depth about the form. So that's really cool. I'm looking forward to that.
I think the form is really helpful because it, as a singer, it's really nice to be able to say, oh, this phrase is the same as this phrase, except for this note, you know? And so I think you all know that intrinsically, but if you can like really be clear on being like, oh, that's another A section, it really
Mhm.
helps us learn music easier and quicker. Yeah,
Good
Marilyn?
point.
So I have to say, three coins. I don't know if I was looking at the corner to see what year it was written, because I remember when that movie came out
Uh-huh.
in 1954. I was going to the movies. Um, and how, oh yes, we all, and when I eventually got to Rome, the same trip when I was in Florence and saw the Gates of Paradise, I said, I'm standing at the Trevi Fountain, fountain rather, I'm really here at this, from this movie that I saw when I was 12, and so music can be very evocative of experience of when you first heard something, and how it fits in your life and how it affected you at that time. But of course, to this day, I'm sure everybody my age knows that song.
Yeah, whenever I sing that song with a group, there are people who have like such specific memories of usually of going to see the fountain themselves. But that's great, Marilyn, because that's actually the last class on week 10. We talk about the audience's experience with art. And so, like that spurring all those memories in you is something that is real specific with music. I would say more so than the other art forms, that music holds all these memories.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember when I was growing up in an apartment building, we would sit outside on the stoop, and the girls they would publish lyrics of songs, not with the music, but we knew the music because we would hear it on the radio. This is before all kinds of technology was available, and we would sit and we would learn, and we would just sit outside and sing, and um, I remember with art. I remember taking an art class in college, and then when I got to Europe, I said, I'm actually seeing the things that he showed us on the actually seeing this, and it wasn't flat anymore. It was three-dimensional. It was so I think our senses just play a very important part, and our memory does, and things just resonate in so many different ways.
Yeah, sensorially, that's a good way to think about it. I'll have to see if I can, yeah, I'll have to write that down because that's a good point in how we receive art. It's through our senses, and we receive all the art forms slightly differently through our senses.
I make mosaic art, and one of my teachers that I had a couple years ago had us. We were this contemporary stuff. Had us. She was a former dancer, and she had us dance, at home in our studios. It was an online class, and then draw some of the movements that we made, and then
Oh,
incorporate that into our plan for what we were going to make. And that was a really interesting experience because normally you're kind of thinking, okay, this line's going here and that's going to go there, and here's my focal point. And doing it
I,
that way made it really interesting
I love that. I actually did the opposite. I was in a dance class where we used visual art to create dances.
to create the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Goes back and forth, I guess.
And well, a lot of that is about line, and
Oh,
line
totally.
is one of the things we'll be talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And mosaics are all about the line, the andamento.
Right. Right.
Joey, I
So what
see a
that, yeah.
comment in the chat from Penny, who had a very interesting question, and it's one I thought about it as you were presenting about the Beatles.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. You know, I've listened to many interviews with McCartney. He did not know, the tech that technically he was recreating the form. He just knew that he was doing something different, but I don't think he didn't know how, or how it was different, or why it was necessarily different. Jim Croce, I'm not quite as aware of. Brian, do you have any idea? No.
No, unfortunately, I don't. I certainly can go and look it up and try and find the answer, but
I
Yeah.
I'm learning just as everybody else is.
looked it up. He was 30 when he died.
Yeah, 30 when he died, but we were wondering if he was well aware of how he was changing the form. I mean, his stuff is so well written. I feel like he had to be aware.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those of you that have loved learning about form in music, Joey's class is a bit of a yes and to another class that is being taught by Scott Tucker. And for those of you that are in the Washington, D.C. area, Scott Tucker is the former artistic director of Choral Arts Society of Washington and professor emeritus at Cornell University. And he's going to be teaching form in orchestral works, larger master works. And so I think these are two really fascinating classes that are going to go hand in hand because Joey's not just going to give you music. And I don't know, I've learned a lot this evening, and it was a really wonderful presentation, Joey.
Thank you.
I hope that everybody here and everybody watching on demand will consider signing up for Encore University because we have some great classes coming up this semester. Any
Awesome.
quick
Convinced me.
questions before we wrap it up for this evening?
Thank you all. Nice to see you.
It was great.
Thanks, everybody.
You
Have
have
a
a great
lovely
voice.
Wednesday night, and please consider joining us for the master classes that will happen in February and March. I'm not ready to release those details yet, but there are some really exciting ones coming up, and you'll learn about those very soon. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Joey.
Yep. No problem. Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.